Hare Krishna. Can you hear my voice? Am I audible? Okay, let's start. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So thank you all very much for joining today's session. We are discussing from the second verse of Sri Siksastakam. Namna Makari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrarpita Niyamita Smaranena Kalaha Etadrishi Tava Kripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiva Midrishamiha Jani Nanuragaha. Oh my Lord, there are many different names, primary names, in which you have invested all the potencies, and there are no hard and fast rules for chanting these names. It's very easy process and the most potent process, but still I don't have taste for chanting the holy names. That is the most unfortunate situation because of my offenses. Because I am not able to avoid my offenses, therefore I am not able to develop taste for such a potent process of holy name. So therefore we decided, we saw the explanation of both Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. They explained this verse as to indicate that the main cause of misfortune is our offenses, especially the 10 types of nama parad, which are either committed due to a disrespectful attitude or due to improper sambandha gyan, is the main cause of our problem of not having taste for chanting the holy names. So in this context, we decided that we will discuss from both Madhurya Kadambini and Shri Harinam Chintamani about the 10 offenses, because as Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, the only way of overcoming the offenses is to understand clearly what constitutes these offenses, under what causes these offenses, and when is such an offense committed, how do you understand the seriousness of such an offense, how do you make yourself immune from committing such offenses, and if you have already committed that offense, how do you rectify that offense. All these things one should very clearly understand, and only then one can overcome the influence of the offenses. So in that, last week we completed discussing the first offense, which is Vaishnava Ninda, to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy names of the Lord. Before we move on to the second offense, I will do a very quick recap of what are the prime topics, and I will try to summarize each of these subtopics in 1 or 2 sentences so that we have some take home on this. So we started this discussion on this topic of Vaishnava Ninda by understanding that Ninda means animosity or malice. So that is Ninda. And we saw that we tried to understand, the first topic we discussed was the potency of a sadhu. The potency of a sadhu is very, very potent. In their association, we get inspiration on the path of bhakti, especially if he's a Uttamadhikari. He becomes he is the reservoir of the Samvit and Hladini Shakti of Krishna, and in his association, very quickly one attains bhakti. Okay, therefore his food remnants, foot wash and foot are very, very potent. Okay, so this is especially the position of a Uttamadhikari, but even the association of a Madhyamadhikari and a Kanishtadhikari is still better than association of non-devotees. Okay, so then we try to understand. So if we have to understand what is Vaishnava Ninda, first we have to understand who is a Vaishnava or a sadhu. So we saw from the explanation of the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that sadhu means he has, Bhagavatam talks about many different qualities of being gentle, clean, tolerant, merciful, etc. But these are all secondary qualities of a sadhu. The primary quality is Krishneka Sharanam. Unalloyed surrender to Krishna is the primary quality. If this quality is there, automatically the secondary qualities will come in proportion to one's progress on the path of devotional service. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana sarvair gunays tatra samasate sura. Automatically, but gradually they will come. Okay. So therefore, the biggest cause of committing sadhu ninda is when we don't see these secondary qualities being present in a person, in a Vaishnava, or not to the extent that we expect. So then we try to judge them. Okay. So, uh, so when we don't see the favorable qualities developed, or when we don't see the unfavorable qualities destroyed, then we tend to judge those Vaishnavas. But the problem is that not everyone comes to devotional service with the same amount of anarthas. So therefore, you cannot say that, oh, someone is very harsh, someone is very crude, someone is very arrogant. So therefore, he is not a good Vaishnava. We cannot come to such conclusions. As long as we see the primary quality of surrender to Krishna, we should respect that Vaishnava. Okay, and the main cause of sadhu ninda is to expect the favorable secondary qualities, and when we don't see those favorable secondary qualities, and on top of that, when we see those unfavorable secondary qualities, then we tend to commit sadhu ninda. So the main cause is when we see a Vaishnava, he has a low caste, a birth in a low caste, or previous sins or faults in this life prior to coming to bhakti, or an unpremeditated accidental act of sin due to influence of the vasanas, or sometimes present traces of previous sinful activity which may be there in a Vaishnava. So on these counts, we are generally prone to commit offenses to Vaishnavas, but all these are not, these are insubstantial grounds for criticizing a Vaishnava. Even if all four reasons are there, one should still not criticize a Vaishnava like that. Okay. So, because Krishna has promised that Shipram Bhavati Dharmatma Shashvat Shantim Nigachati Kaunteya Pratijanihi Name Bhakta Pranashyati. Very quickly, that Vaishnava will become a Dharmatma. So, therefore, therefore, you go and loudly proclaim, O Arjuna, that my devotee shall never perish. Like that. So, what is the result of Vaishnava Ninda? We saw very soon we will lose our devotional credits, and we will become bereft of bhakti, and we will come under the control of Yamaraj. This is the result. And then we discussed about what is the main cause of Asat Vaishnava Ninda. The main cause of Vaishnava Ninda is the two types of Asat Sangha. Asat Sangha, Tyaga Ei Vaishnava Achar. So if one really has to have Vaishnava Achar, one should give up Asat Sangha. There are two types of Asat Sangha. One is associating with inappropriate, illicit association with the opposite sex. That will make one too much attached in an unfavorable way, and therefore one will, in order to please that, one may engage in sadhu ninda. And the second reason is actually associating with non-devotees, especially association with non-devotees who possess a different value system. Because when we become attached to that, then we will accept that value system, and based on that acquired value system, we will try to judge the devotees. And when the devotees do not live up to those standards, then we will criticize the devotees. So this is so Asat Sangha is the main cause of sadhu ninda. We should at all costs try to avoid Asat Sangha. Okay. And then the next topic that we discussed was, how do we treat a Vaishnava? So we have to treat a Vaishnava according to his level of devotional development, irrespective of whatever ashram or varna that he may belong to. So therefore, one should clearly understand how to understand the levels of Vaishnavas. Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta dikshasti chet pranatibhischa bhajantamisham shishrushaya bhajana vigyam ananyam anya nindadi shunya hridamipsita sangalabhya. So the Shastras very clearly describe the various levels of Vaishnavas, the Kanishtadikari, the Madhyamadikari, and the Uttamadikari. Sakale Samman Korite Shakati Deho Nata Jata Jata. So one should understand one's level, and accordingly one should give respect to those Vaishnavas. A Kanishtadikari should be respected, Madhyamadikari should be given more respect, and Uttamadikari should be given absolute respect, like that. And like that, there are many definitions of Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttamadikari that are given in the Shastras. We discussed that. So therefore, in essence, it is very important for the practitioner of bhakti to understand in his performance of sadhana his own position in devotional service according to his internal level of purity. He should understand where am I and where are others, and accordingly one should give appropriate respect. Okay. And one should, so therefore, typical activities of a real devotee is he should avoid sadhu ninda, he should take the association of sadhus, he should serve those sadhus, he should give knowledge to innocent jivas, and he should perform nama sankirtan. So this is the ideal behavior expected of a Vaishnava. So let's say if the offense has already been committed, how do we rectify this offense? We saw the first step is repentance. There should be genuine repentance. Oh, I did a mistake. I should not have committed this offense. Okay, but this repentance is not sufficient. One should then approach the Vaishnava, fall at his feet, beg for forgiveness, serve that Vaishnava, and try to please him in all different ways so that the Vaishnava is pleased and happy. Okay, but sometimes the offense may be so grievous that the Vaishnava's anger does not die. In such a case, one should, in great remorse and repentance, one should try to take full shelter of Harinam Sankirtan. But one should not think that, oh, this is very easy, I will directly take shelter of Harinam Sankirtan. Why should I try to, beg forgiveness, please the Vaishnava? The Vaishnava, he may not agree, or, why should I, why should I bend my head towards this Vaishnava whom I don't like? It is better to bend my head towards Harinam Sankirtan. One should not think like that, because this will compound the offense. Okay, this mentality is very bad. Nor should one think that ye bhi ek Vaishnava hai kya? He has so many bad qualities. He is not even a Vaishnava. So many times we try to, so this is the biggest problem, that when we have committed a mistake, no one wants to carry the burden of guilt of that mistake. So the easiest way to get rid of guilt is to philosophize, is to weave a philosophy around it. Okay, now I have committed Vaishnava Ninda and I am not able to carry the guilt of that Vaishnava Ninda. How do I get rid of the guilt of that Vaishnava Ninda? Try to find as many bad qualities in that Vaishnava so that I feel good. Arey, utna bhi bada Vaishnava ko maine ninda nahi kiya. I may feel like that. So in order to get rid of that guilt, we may try to find some faults in that Vaishnava so that I don't have to feel guilty. But this is the worst way of getting rid of guilt. So the better way of getting rid of guilt is to actually apologize to the Vaishnava, fall at his feet, beg for apologies, and try to rectify the situation. Yes, it will be little bit difficult for the false ego, but it is a better way of getting rid of guilt. This will actually give genuine satisfaction rather than trying to get rid of guilt by trying to find more faults, because Vaishnava Ninda does not discriminate between Vaishnavas. You cannot find a fault and get rid of our Vaishnava Ninda. A person cannot minimize his offense by pointing out some defect in the devotee. Okay, like that. And then someone may say, oh, actually, the real result of Vaishnava Ninda is that the Vaishnava should forgive the offender and give him Krishna Prem. That is a real Vaishnava. You see, in the case of Nityananda Prabhu and Jagai Madai wanted to kill Nityananda Prabhu, but in return, he gave them Krishna Prem. Mar kai prem de, doyal to nahi hai. So one should not quote such episodes and say, निंदा भी करना है तो एक बहुत उच्च श्रेणी का वैष्णव को निंदा करो तो आपको कृष्ण प्रेम मिल जाएगा. So this is a very improper understanding, because the main focus of that episode is to establish the unprecedented, merciful nature of Nityananda Prabhu. It is the purpose of that episode is not to show that the greater the Vaishnava you criticize, the better is the result that you get. No. Okay. So one should not quote such episodes of Jadabharat and Rahuguna, where Rahuguna criticized Jadabharata, but in return he gave him knowledge, transcendental knowledge. So one should not think that, oh, the real result of Vaishnava Nanda should be that the Vaishnava should become very pleased and he should give mercy. So one should not use such crooked logic and justify their misgivings. And then the next topic that we discussed was how actually culture of respect makes a person immune to Vaishnava Nanda. So we have to see our general disposition towards non-devotees, towards even inanimate objects, how we deal with inanimate objects, non-humans. How do we even treat ants? How do we treat plants? How respectfully we treat even inanimate objects? Like we see, if something can be done using our hands, if we are using our feet to do it, then it means we have a generic disrespectful attitude, which means we have very less immunity to Vaishnava Ninda. So in general, we can check how immune we are to Vaishnava Ninda by checking how much respectful I am in dealing with ordinary, even non-devotees, non-devotional objects, how respectfully we deal with it. Anything that you can use your hands to do it, if you are using your feet, be careful. That is probably an indication that we have very less immunity to Vaishnava Ninda. So therefore, in the Shastras also, if you see Kapila Dev and other such sections, they are very heavily, they indicate that, in order to protect one's bhakti, one should develop a very generic, respectful attitude towards all the living entities, because only that respectful attitude towards all the living entities will protect one from offenses towards Vaishnavas, because that generic disrespectful attitude will carry over into the realm of Vaishnava Sangha also. So that we discussed. But then the next topic that we discussed was, yes, we should be respectful towards everyone, but that does not mean we give the same respect to everyone. The respect that we give to each living entity is according to the level of consciousness that they have developed. Sakale samman korite shakati deho nata jata jata. Tabe to gai harinama suke aparada habe hata. So we understand that we have to give according to the level of development of consciousness, we give respect. So we can't give the same respect that we give to an Uttamadhikari. We can't give the same respect to a non-devotee, because it would be an insult to the Uttamadhikari. Like that. So, okay. So then, then the final topic that we discussed was Ramanujacharya on Vaishnava Nanda. He mentioned that there are many reasons why we commonly commit Vaishnava Nanda. One is because disrespecting someone because of his low birth, or even glorifying someone because of their high birth. Arey aap Brahman hai, so which means probably if someone is not a Brahmana, we may actually disrespect that Vaishnava. Maybe Sharira Nirupana, if someone has a deformed body or a different body like Hanumanji or Garuda, or Bhava Nirupana, if someone considering someone unqualified because of their age, or Ashrama Nirupana, to consider someone unqualified for bhakti because of his ashrama. Oh, he's a grahastha, what kind of a devotee he can be, like that. And Avaya Rupana, disrespecting a Vaishnava because of his bodily deformities, like we see in the case of Rupa Goswami, of course, even though it was completely inadvertent. Then Alasya Nirupana, to disrespect someone because of his habits. Vasa Nirupana, to consider only Dhamvasis to be devotees and disrespecting others who are not the Dhamvasis. And eighth is Bandhu Nirupana, disrespecting a Vaishnava because of his being a family member. That is also an offense. Prakasha Nirupana, to respect only one's guru and disrespect all others. So these are just symptoms of hero worship. Actually, this is not really, actually even proper worship of the guru also. Or another form is to respect only those who are close to the guru but disrespect all others. That is also a kind of hero worship only. And Vartana Nirupana means to insult someone because of their occupation. Oh, they are engaged in a lower occupation. So that is also a kind of offense. And Dosha Nirupana, finding fault even with Shastric characters, like we saw in the case of, oh, this Draupadi, what kind of a woman she is, she married 5 husbands, like that. So this is where we ended our discussion on Sadhu Ninda, because I thought, very quickly I will do a summary of, what we have seen in this first offense of Sadhu Ninda. So before we move on to the second offense, which is actually to consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the names of Lord Vishnu. So before we move on to that, if there are any quick discussion points, comments, questions, anything anyone might have based on the first offense that we have discussed, then take before we move on to the second offense. Any quick discussion points, comments, questions, anything anyone would like to share, ask, add, you can please go ahead. Ramuna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. Yeah, this must have been discussed. What questions I have. I just wanted again, just what I'm asking. First thing is that Asat Sangha Tyaga, you mentioned about that. So opposite sex, okay, we definitely will avoid, try to avoid. But the non-devotee association in the Grihastha ashram, when we are working and in duties, this is a common question. Sometimes we get into the association of they had to associate with them because of our duties and performing the works and all. So it gets so absorbed that we just become one of them. Sometimes we feel that we are acting as of in their consciousness only. So it becomes sometimes it becomes so engrossed that we had to associate. How do we avoid that? Probably first question. How do you deal with that situations? Not avoid, actually can't avoid sometimes. Yeah.
Actually, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that Sangha means where there is investment of emotions, that is Sangha. So if we are dutifully engaging and not become emotionally dependent on them, then it is not exactly Sangha. So, and also Sangha means when we engage in when we very willingly and eagerly engage in the 6 exchanges, then it is Sangha, where there is the 6 kinds of Priti Lakshanam, and where we are becoming emotionally dependent on them, and we start purchasing their value system. So then this is all symptoms actually Sangha. So if we are having these kind of exchanges with them, then it is definitely called as a satsanga. But if as a matter of our duty, we are going to office and dutifully we are dealing with them, not that we are mechanical, we have pleasant exchanges with them, we inquire about their well-being and all that. But at the same time, when it comes to our own emotional needs and those kind of things, fulfillment, we try to get them fulfilled through the association of devotees. So that is Vaishnava Sangha. But when we are looking forward to spending time with them, taking their association, so then that is definitely a satsanga.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you. Thank you. This helps. Second question is that about first two steps you talked about when we offend a devotee, how do we deal with that? So second step you mentioned about going to the personally going to the devotee and then asking forgiveness like that. So sometimes the devotees are not available, or we may not get their accessibility. Will not we may commit and then we get separated, and then we get we not don't get their again audience, we may say, to so that we can beg forgiveness at that time. And also it's not that we are trying to avoid or something like that. We tried our efforts, but not able to get the accessibility. And also we are having repentance is there, definitely repentance is there, but not able to personally approach them. How do we
Yeah, I mean,
deal with this?
this is the age of accessibility, Prabhu. Anyone can access, in one sense, anyone. If not personally, at least email is there, WhatsApp is
Yeah.
there.
Mhm.
At least
Okay.
we can communicate that I am genuinely repenting, and I wish to express my deep apologies. So there are ways of communication. So even if we may not be able to personally meet them, but of course, if
Yeah.
you want to personally meet them also, where there is a will, there is a way. Definitely, it is possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Other modes of communication is okay. That's the just wanted to, because personally karna I said that's not necessary
Eh,
that.
Not that it's not necessary, but
Yeah.
if it's not possible, at least we can
Possible.
try to
Yeah.
do this.
Okay. Okay, Prabhuji. Okay. Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you. Thank you for this.
Prashandari Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
So, Prabhuji, about this Bandhu Nirupan.
Mm-hmm.
So, generally, I don't know exactly what it is indicating, but usually we see that not necessarily that there is um, envy or
Malice.
malice,
Yeah.
yeah, in the between the family members, at least the close ones. The distant maybe.
Correct. Yeah.
So then how is that offense counted for family members? Because you might not deal with them with utmost respect because of the intimacy in the relationship, maybe. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
means you may have the respect, but you may not be expressing it. And sometimes, you are just the way you are in front of your family, with your family.
Correct. Correct.
How is that offense? How
Yeah,
is
it
it
is
seen?
not offensive as long as uh, the other person is comfortable with our exchanges. So, but if consistently, okay, I am trying to be intimate, but the way in which I am expressing my intimacy is not very agreeable, and time and again the person feels, irritate क्यों कर रहे हैं, और थोड़ा मुझे, whatever, we are certainly not doing it in malice, but if they are clearly giving certain communications that certain way of our dealing with them out of genuine love and affection is not appreciated, but still we do not respect that, then then that can lead to offenses, because it is hurting the Vaishnava, even though, and especially if we see that it is genuinely hurting the Vaishnava. No, we may not see them as a Vaishnava. We may see it as, okay, my son, my daughter, my husband. It is hurting them. They are not liking it. But still, I am continuing to do it. Of course, I am not doing it out of malice. Uh, but then we see that they are not liking it. Why are we continuing that? So sometimes we may say that, oh, it is all for their betterment. Uh, Sometimes uh, our ways of acting may not actually help that person also, even though our intention may be correct to help that person, but maybe it is just that we are expressing our frustration we want a particular change from the other person. We are expressing our frustration, but the way we express it may not necessarily help that person. So in that sense, it is not exactly malice, but we are not being sufficiently sensitive enough to understand that yes, there may be certain things which I don't like in that, the way in which certain things are done by that person, but the way I am responding is neither rectifying the situation nor is it making that person happy. So maybe I should think about other means of, if I am really concerned about rectifying it, maybe I should think about other means which may be more effective and less hurtful to the other person. Maybe we should start thinking in that direction, like that.
So, so in any case, that means whether you have means we define the offense as with envy or malice, but even though we may not have that, but if the person is feeling hurt or unhappy, that still becomes an offense.
Yeah, and especially when we know that the other person is getting hurt, and still if we are not rectifying our ways of dealing, then how is that freedom from malice? It may not be explicit malice, but when we know for sure that our action is creating deep hurt in that other person, but we are not willing to change, and still we say, oh, I don't have any malice, then we will have to redefine what is malice actually. So, so therefore, I mean, it may not be malice, but malice in close relationship, the initial symptoms of malice is when we start taking the other person for granted, and even after especially seeing that our ways of acting is actually causing hurt to that person, but still we don't rectify because Are mera hi dost hai, or mera hi, it's my daughter, my son, like that. So then that is actually, in one sense, it is not explicit malice, but it is not an act performed with great affection also. So it's somewhere in between. So like that.
Thank you, Guruji.
Okay, there is a question in the chat box. Okay, number 9 and number 10. Okay, what is number 9 and 10? Okay, number 9 is to respect only one's guru and disrespect all others. Number 10 is to disrespect only those close to the guru and disrespect all others. Okay. Respecting only guru or close to him and disrespecting others. But if suppose it does not match with the mood of guru, then we respect but keep a distance. Is that okay? Yeah, that is fine. That is fine. Yeah. Because many times by keeping that distance, they may feel disrespected and neglected towards them, and they may get hurt. How can we avoid this? Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I can't give a very generic answer to this, but we can do whatever is needed to keep the situation, because we cannot get, it is natural that we cannot be goody with every single person. It is but natural that no one behaves with everyone in the exact way. It is very natural that even perfected devotees, you see, like even His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, you see, he has his own, sort of close group of friends with whom he is very close, and with others, he may keep a respectful distance. But at the same time, the distance need not indicate disrespect. So we keep a respectful distance and keep that respectful distance with respect. So it is up to us to communicate it clearly. So if we have the heart, as we discussed for Ramana Prabhu's discussion, where there is a will, there is a way. If there is a genuine desire to communicate the right mood, yes, I respect you, but I have my own circle of intimate friends. That is perfectly fine and it is very natural, I think. But distance need not be, uh, 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 distance need not give the message of disrespect. Distance can mean one can keep a respectful distance with respect. So if one wants to communicate it, one can actually communicate it. It is possible. Because, yeah, that is what I feel. Okay. So if there are any final discussion points before we wrap this first offense and then move on to the second offense? Okay. If there is none, then let's move on to the second offense, which is to consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the names of Lord Vishnu, which means to consider Krishna and the demigods on the same pedestal. Of course, as Vaishnavas, we may not explicitly do this, but still we may borderline doing these kind of things. Like, we will see how as devotees we can also borderline on either outright disrespecting the demigods or giving them more position than what they actually, I won't say deserve, because deserve sounds like a very harsh word in talking about demigods. Mm, uh, uh, Giving them more respect in comparison to Krishna, or like for example, sometimes we may say that as devotees, we can go to uh, Krishna only for uh, asking for prema, but we should go to the demigods if we have some other material desires. Um, this also is in one sense like because sometimes we say that, oh, this is a system created by Krishna. This is a system created by Krishna. So if you have any material need, for example, if your health is not good, you should go to a demigod and offer your prayers like that. So we may border this kind of, we will certainly not put demigods on the same pedestal as Krishna. At least that much we will certainly not do. But we may borderline by doing these kind of, by telling these kind of things. Oh, if you want prema, go to Krishna. If you want anything else, go to the demigods. These kind of things. So these are definitely a no. It also falls within this kind of second offense. Okay. So now, so for that, we first try to understand the gradation of conscious living entities. Of course, this we know already. It's not that we do not know, but still, it's a good exercise to go over this. So he says there are now he says we will consider the second aparad of misunderstanding the position of Vishnu, Shiva, and the demigods. He says conscious beings are of two types. Conscious being is Chaitanya. Of course, here we are not talking about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya means conscious. Okay. So conscious living beings are of two types, Ishvara Chaitanya and Jiva Chaitanya. Ishvara Chaitanya means independent and Jiva Chaitanya means dependent. Okay. So Ishvara Chaitanya is also of two types. One is Vishnu Tattva, another is Shambhu Tattva. Vishnu Tattva is not at all touched by Maya. But Shambhu Tattva, for the purpose of pastimes, accepts the touch of Maya. So this is Lord Shiva. Okay. So, both are Ishvara Chaitanya. Even Shambhu Tattva is independent in the sense there are a lot of things. Of course, if you want to see in terms of absolute independence, even the Vishnu Tattvas are not absolutely independent. In one sense, they are dependent on Krishna. So, but for their generic functioning in this world, the demigods are certainly dependent on Krishna or the Lord. But Lord Shiva, for his generic functioning within this material world, he is not on for his generic functionings, he is not dependent on the Supreme Lord. Even though in the absolute sense, Even the Vishnu Tattvas are dependent on Krishna. But Lord Shiva, for his general functioning, unlike the other demigods, he is not dependent on Krishna. So therefore, he also falls in the category of Ishvara Chaitanya. So the first type of Ishvara is called by such names as Narayana, Hari, etc. Harirhi Nirguna Sakshat Purusha Prakrite Paraha. It is Hari who is directly the non-material Lord transcendental to the material nature. So, and the second type of Ishvara is called by such names as Shiva. Shiva, Shakti Yuta Shashvat Trilingo Guna Samvrataha. So, he is quoting some verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, which discusses this kind of Ishvara Chaitanya in the form of Lord Shiva. Shiva voluntarily accepts the three gunas and appears to be covered by them, but he is not. He comes in touch, but he is not affected by the three gunas. Okay. Even though Shiva appears to be covered by the gunas, one should not think that he is in the category of Jiva Tattva, because Brahma Samhita very clearly says, Shiram Dadi Vikara Vishesha Yogat Sanjayate Nahitata Prutagasti Hetoho Yash Shambhutam Apitata Samupaiti Karyat Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So, summarizing this, the meaning of this verse, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says, Shiva is a transformation of the Lord, just as yogurt is a transformation of milk. So, he is not exactly Jiva Tattva. He is certainly a slight transformation of Vishnu Tattva, but he is not exactly Vishnu Tattva also. But he is Ishvara Tattva. In the Puranas and other scriptures as well, Shiva is glorified as Ishvara. In the Bhagavatam also it is said. So, Bhagavatam says, Sattvam Rajas Tamayiti Prakriter Gunastair Yuktaha Parama Purusha Eka Ihasya Datte Tityadaye Hari Virinchi Hareti Samgyaha Shreyamsi Tatra Kalu Sattva Tanor Nrinam Sivu. He says, the one Supreme Purusha accepting the gunas of Prakriti known as Sattva, Rajas and Tamas for creation, maintenance and destruction is called as Vishnu, Brahma and Shiva. So, but the best results for the devotees will come from Vishnu, who has a Shuddha Sattva body. Okay. So even though Lord Shiva may be a slight transformation of Lord Vishnu only, but still when it comes to worshipping him as a Supreme Lord, you can worship only Vishnu as the Supreme Lord. Like that. So, in this shloka, it is also generally understood that Brahma may also be considered an Ishvara, because generally we say that there are three Murtis, right? Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Okay, there are three rollers. So sometimes on par with Vishnu, Shiva and Brahmaji are also presented as Ishvara. In one sense, Lord Shiva is Ishvara because he is Ishvara Tattva. But Lord Brahma being Ishvara is because is only borrowed power. His power of control is borrowed. So he says, but Brahma's position as Ishvara or Lord should be understood as power invested in a Jiva by the Supreme Lord. So generally in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, Srila Rupa Goswami describes this. Generally, Brahmaji is a Jiva Tattva only. Because, Bhagavatam says that, what is it? Swadarmanishta Shatajanma Puman Virinchita Meti Tata Param Himam. Avyatam Bhagavato Tavaishnavam Padam Yataham Vibhuda Kalatye. Like that, it is mentioned in Rudra Geet. It is said that Swadarmanishta Shatajanma Puman. If someone perfectly follows the pious life of Varnashrama for 100 lifetimes continuously, then he becomes qualified to become Brahma. But sometimes such a pious soul may not be available to perform the role of Brahma. Under circumstances, the Supreme Lord himself accepts the role of Brahma. So in such circumstances, it is not a Jiva who has accepted the role of Brahma. But even under such circumstances, that form of Brahma should not be worshipped, even though the Supreme Lord himself has accepted that form of Brahma. Okay, which means he should not be worshipped as Lord or Ishvara Tattva. And most of the times, Lord Shiva is Vishnu Tattva, or not Vishnu Tattva, but Ishvara Tattva. But sometimes, under what circumstances the Acharyas don't explain, but sometimes a Jiva may be given the role to perform some aspects of Lord Shiva, especially the act of destruction. Okay, so sometimes it is a Jiva. So, but either is, even whether it is the Ishvara Tattva Lord Shiva or the Lord himself accepting the role of Brahma, in either of these cases, they should not be worshipped on the same pedestal as Vishnu. This is the understanding. Okay. So, and generally, the Jiva Tattva Brahma's power as an Ishvara is borrowed powers. Bhaswan, again Brahma Samhita says, Bhaswan, just give me 1 second. Okay, just give me 1 second. I will just. Okay. So, Bhaswan yatashma shakaleshu nijeshu tejaha swiyam kiyat prakatayatyapi tattva brahmaya yesha jagadanda vidana karta govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. So he says, Govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda. Brahma ya esha jagadanda vidhana karta. Brahma ya esha, from whom the separated subjective portion Brahma receives his power for the regulation of the mundane world. Jagadanda vidhana karta, from whom Brahma receives the power to regulate this universe. Yata bhaswan, just as the sun, nijeshu tejaha prakatayati. Prakatayati, he bestows or he manifests. Nijeshu tejaha, a portion of his own light. Ashma shakaleshu. Ashma means stones. In particular kinds of stones, which is called as Suryakanta. So these are transparent crystal-like stones. When sunlight falls on those stones, Swiyam Kiyat, having the same name. Okay, Surya Dev is there, and this is called as Suryakanta. So when sunlight falls on the Suryakanta gems, they actually they shine brilliantly, just like a smaller sun. But as soon as sun sets, you can't even notice those Suryakanta gems because they don't have any effulgence of their own. Okay, so Brahmaji being an Ishvara is this kind of a borrowed power from the Supreme Lord. Bhaswan yatashma shakaleshu nijeshu tejaha swiyam kiyat prakatayat yapidatva datra brahmaya yesha jagadanda vidana karta govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So the Brahmaji receives his power to regulate this universe only from the primeval Lord Govinda, just as the Suryakanta gems, stones, receive their shine from they receive their shine from sun, and in the absence of that sun, they don't have any power on their own, like that. So one must discern who is worthy of worship or not on the basis of nirguna and saguna, that is, with no material qualities, which is Vishnu, and with a touch of material qualities, which is Lord Shiva and Brahma. So whoever is nirguna, absolutely, he is fit to be worshipped. Whoever has a touch of the three modes. Okay, so here also Lord Vishnu is never touched by three modes. Okay, and Lord Shiva is touched but not affected. Okay. And when a Vishnu Tattva, so when it comes to Brahmaji, so Brahmaji can be a pious Jiva, or sometimes Brahmaji may become a pure devotee also, like the current Brahma Sampradaya Acharya. A pure devotee. Okay. Or sometimes it may be Lord Vishnu himself. Okay. So if a pious Jiva takes the role of Brahma, so then that pious Jiva is touched by the three modes and affected by the three modes. Okay. But when a pure devotee accepts the role of Brahma, then he comes in touch with the three modes, but not affected by the three modes. Okay. But when Vishnu himself takes the role of Brahma, then he is neither touched nor affected. So that is how we should understand. Okay. So there is a question here. What does it mean by touched but not affected? Touched means they directly handle the modes for the purpose of creation, maintenance, destruction, without the agency of Maya. When Lord Vishnu, he is the controller of mode of goodness, he does not directly control mode of goodness, but he does it through the agency Maya. He does not directly touch goodness also. Even material mode of goodness is not touched by Vishnu. But when Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, they come in touch with the modes, and Lord Shiva is not affected by the three modes. But Lord Brahma, if he is a pious Jiva, he can be affected by the three modes. Like, for example, when he ran after his own daughter, Vak. Okay. That is considered to be under the influence of Rajogun. Okay. But subsequently, when the current Brahma actually, received the Chatushloki Bhagavatam instructions from the Supreme Lord, then by that association, he became a pure devotee. So then after that, subsequently, he was not affected by the three modes. So even activities like Brahma Vimohan Leela, times like Brahma Vimohan Leela, where he seemingly became bewildered, is attributed to Yogamaya potency. So after he became a pure devotee, he was under the realm of Yogamaya. He was not under the three modes. But prior to his receiving the instructions on the Chatushloki Bhagavatam, it is mentioned that he was an ordinary pious soul, not just an ordinary pious soul, but certainly not a pure devotee. So he was affected by the three modes, especially in that Vak episode it is described. But subsequent to that, when he performed sincere devotional service, pleased the Supreme Lord, and received the darshan of the Supreme Lord and the Chatushloki instructions, subsequent to that, he was a pure devotee. And subsequent Brahma Vimohan Leela and other such Leelas, where he seemingly performed some mistakes, are all under the influence of Yogamaya. Okay. And when Vishnu himself, sometimes very rare cases when there is no qualified Jiva available for performing the role of Brahma, when Vishnu himself accepts that role, then also he does not come in touch with the three modes. Okay. So, what about Dattatreya, who is a combination of Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh? He is not exactly a direct combination of Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. He is more like an Avesh avatar. So he is not exactly a combination of Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. He is more of an Avesh of the three. This is my understanding based on my remembrance of whatever we read in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, but I can check and get back to you. Okay. So he says, being different types of Chaitanya, Brahma and Vishnu are completely distinct. Brahma is a Jiva. This is general case. And Vishnu is Ishvara. Sometimes Brahma and Vishnu are described as identical in the Puranas. One should, however, understand that this statement by the example of the sun and the jewel Suryakanta, which is invested with the light of the sun. So in this sense only one should understand their similarity. Suryakanta is like a magnifying glass which takes the rays of the sun and manifests the heat of the sun by burning paper and other such things. In this way only Brahma is considered non-different, especially if that Brahma is a Jivatma. Okay, but in some Mahakalpas, even Shiva is a Jiva like Brahma, invested with the power by the sun, power by the Lord. So this is, I think, from Kvachit Jiva Visheshatvam Harasyoktam Videriva. This is, I think, Laghu Bhagavatamrita. This is Laghu Bhagavatamrita, this verse. As in the case of Brahma, sometimes a particular Jiva takes the role of Shiva. Thus, Shiva is sometimes classed with Brahma in such statements as Yastu Narayanam Devam Brahma Rudradi Daivataihi Samatvenaiva Viksheta Sa Pashandi Bhaved. So this verse, which is quoted in Hari Bhakti Vilas, in such verses, it says Brahma Rudradi Daivataihi Yastu Viksheta Narayanam Devam. He who considers Lord Narayana Brahma Rudradi Daivataihi Samatvena as equivalent to Brahma and Shiva and the other devatas, Sa Pashandi Bhavedruvam is certainly a low rascal. So here, Brahma and Shiva are seemingly put on the same pedestal. This generally refers to those times when the role of Lord Shiva is taken by a Jivatma, like that he is describing here. So this is based on, this is one kind of differentiation based on understanding the Tattva. Brahmaji is generally Jiva Tattva. Lord Shiva is Ishvara Tattva, but not, but he is touched by the modes. And Vishnu is not just Ishvara Tattva. Within Ishvara Tattva is the Vishnu Tattva. Therefore, he is superior to Lord Shiva. So he should be given more respect and worshipped as a Supreme Personality of Godhead. Like that. So here, therefore, one understands this very clear classification of. So this is a classification which is given according to Madhurya Kadambini. So a slightly different classification, but the same conclusion we are going to see based on Harinam Chintamani. But before we get to that discussion, if there are any quick discussion points, comments, questions based on whatever we have discussed till now regarding this second offense, we can take any quick discussion points, comments, questions, anything anyone would like to share, ask, add. Yes, Braj Sundari Mataji.
Yeah, Prabhuji, the second offense of considering the names of Lord Shiva and Brahma to be equal to or independent. So, so equal to is definitely we understand that whether Lord Shiva is an is a Ishwar Chaitanya or an ordinary empowered soul playing the role, and Brahma as a empowered entity. So we cannot consider names to be equal to Vishnu. And independent is always either in either case, Prabhuji, or how it is. Like in that case, are we considering that sometimes Lord himself takes the role of, like, anyways, Lord Shiva is Ishwar Chaitanya, but even Lord Brahma, sometimes when there is no eligible living entity available, then the Lord takes the form of Brahma. So in that case, it is offense to consider it independent, or because they ultimately derive the powers from the Lord only. So that's why we should not consider the names to be independent.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
mean,
whether
so yeah, I sort of I get what you're trying to say. One is when the Supreme Lord himself, due to lack of a availability of a proper candidate, when he takes up the role of Brahma, still we do not, as the form of Brahma is not worshipable as the Supreme Lord, even though the personality has taken up that role. So, therefore, and certainly the name Brahma does not become like the name of the Supreme Lord, even a secondary name of the Supreme Lord. So that way we don't consider. So, but of course, if we know that it is the Supreme Lord who has taken the role of Brahmaji, we definitely offer our respect. But when it comes to our worshipable altar, on which we do not keep a form of Brahma to worship. So that is, even though the Supreme Lord may have accepted in a particular kalpa, he may have accepted the role of Brahma, but still that form is not worshipable, and that name is not, cannot be chanted like we chant the name of Krishna, Rama, Govinda, like that. So in that sense, we understand.
Okay. So this independent aspect is because ultimately all the powers that they have come from Lord Vishnu. So this is
Yeah,
how.
I mean, if it is Vishnu only who has taken up that role, then in terms of his material functioning, he is independent. But this is a rare case generally. This is a rare case, very rare case. Generally, at Jiva Tattva only takes up the role of Brahma. So let us keep aside the rare case. The general principle is it is only a Brahmaji. The role of Brahma is performed by a Jiva Chaitanya only, and not an Ishvara Chaitanya. And even Lord Shiva's being independent is with respect to his material functioning. Functioning within the material world, he is independent. But in the ultimate sense, even the Vishnu Tattvas are not independent uh, of Krishna. So that kind of absolute independence, even the Vishnu Tattvas don't have. So Lord Shiva certainly does not.
Okay. Because generally this one aspect is very, very clearly stated all the time, that we should not equate them. But this independent part, I always had this thought that usually we do not speak it. I think that's just an understanding that one needs to have.
So the independence should be understood in terms of their functioning within the material realm. So even functioning within the material realm, Brahma is not independent. But functioning within the material realm, Lord Shiva is independent and Lord Vishnu is independent. But both Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu are not independent in the absolute sense, because they all are dependent on the Amshi, which is Krishna. And they are all Amshas. In that sense, everyone is dependent except Krishna.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you.
Vrajalila Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. We're discussing about Shiva, but is it an expansion of Sadashiva or Sadashiva?
Oh, this is a long discussion, actually. In one sense, I mean, the actually Sadashiva is in one sense Mahavishnu only.
Yes.
So Sadashiva is actually Mahavishnu only, and this Shiva, who is the Vishnu Tattva, whom we are talking. So that Mahavishnu Shiva has that Sadashiva has actually 6 qualities. as we see, Krishna has 64, the Vishnu Tattvas have 60 qualities. But this Shiva whom we are talking about, he has only 55 qualities. We'll be seeing this in the next section. So even though he is Ishvara Tattva, and that Sadashiva, he does not participate in any material functioning. So that Sadashiva is actually Mahavishnu. All that he does is he glances at Prakriti. So that's all. That is his only touch with material nature.
And one more question, Vinay. You say that sometimes Vishnu himself comes as Brahma.
Mm-hmm.
So in that, and he is not, but even then he was not, he is beyond the modes. He is not connected to the modes.
Mm-hmm.
Then at that time, how does the creation take place? Because creation, matlab, modes have to be, Brahma has to be in some mode. That is why Brahma is the Rajogun form. Then only that which takes place. So how we can understand that?
I mean, it is not that Brahma has to be in Rajogun for making creation, but Brahmaji has to have control over Rajogun. So Brahmaji need not necessarily be in Rajogun to make the creation. Brahmaji has to have control over Rajogun. Sometimes he himself may be in Rajogun. That is a different thing. But that is not a prerequisite. He should have control over the Rajogun. So Brahmaji may have that control personally. If the Supreme Lord takes the role of Brahma, he may have control over Rajogun through the agency of Maya and not necessarily personally.
Through the agency of Maya.
What, Mataji?
I could not get it. Through the agency of Maya means how?
Yeah, just like we say that Tribir Gunamayer Bhavir Ebis Sarvamidam Jagat, the Maya is the one who controls the three modes. Yes. So through the agency of Maya, so he will not directly touch the three modes. He will just glance at Prakriti and empower the three modes to carry out those functions. Even though from an external point of view, it may look like Brahmaji is only carrying over, but he will not personally touch the three modes. Even when he accepts the role of Brahma, he does not directly personally come in touch with the three modes.
Thank you.
Correct. Anything else before we move forward? Okay. Let us see the same thing from a slightly different perspective. This is from Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. Krishna in Goloka is the original and supreme Vishnu form, being ornamented with 64 transcendental qualities to enhance his blissful activities by which he performs his activities. He has 64 qualities. The Purusha avatars and other plenary avatars all possess these 60 qualities to carry out their function. So Krishna has 64 qualities, and the Purusha avatars, the Leela avatars, the Manvantara avatars, they all have 60 qualities. Okay. And Krishna expands as two types of conscious particles. The first is the ordinary Jiva, which is the Vibhinnamsha, who has 50 qualities to some degree. The second are the demigods, who have the same 50 qualities but to a greater degree. So the ordinary Jivas have 50 qualities to a less degree. Okay. And then there are the demigods who have these 50 qualities to a greater degree but not absolute degree at all. Okay. In addition, Lord Shiva possesses 5 more qualities. So 55. Okay. So Vishnu has all these qualities plus 5 more which are not found in the other living entities. So Lord Shiva has 55 and the Vishnu Tattvas, they have 60 qualities. In this way, we can see that Vishnu or Narayana with 60 qualities is the Lord, and Shiva and the demigods are his servants. Okay, very simple. Number of qualities. So there it was in touch with Maya, not in touch with Maya. So here, in terms of qualities, greater than the ordinary jivas are the demigods, and Shiva, and greater than Lord Shiva is Vishnu, who is the Lord of the jivas and the Lord of the demigods. Therefore, whoever considers Vishnu on the same level as the demigods is very ignorant. Okay, so the 50 qualities from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, we can see the 50 qualities which are there in all the jivas to a small degree. Okay, so I'm not going to read all of them. I will quickly read some of them. Beautiful features of the entire body. To some extent, all jivas are beautiful. Marked with auspicious characteristics, extremely pleasing, effulgent, strong, youthful, wonderful linguist. You have even people who know multiple languages. So truthful. Uh, talks pleasingly, fluent, highly learned, highly intelligent, genius, artistic, extremely clever, expert, grateful, firmly determined, and so on. I'm not going to read all those 50 characteristics. Okay. And all these 50 characteristics are present in an absolute degree only in Krishna. Even in the Vishnu Tattvas, these qualities are there to complete perfection, but it is not, it is most perfect. It is present to an extraordinary degree only in Krishna. So even though Krishna has 4 qualities which are not there in any of the Vishnu Tattvas, but even the 60 qualities which are there in Lord Vishnu, it is there to an extraordinary degree in Krishna in comparison to the Vishnu Tattvas. We will see that. Okay. So Srila Rupa Goswami says, Jiveshu ete vasantopi bindu bindutaya kvachit paripurnataya bhanti tatraiva purushottame. Ete vasantah, these qualities are present. Jiveshu api, even in the jivas, but bindu bindutaya, to a very small degree they are there, even in jivas. Now and then, kvachit. And all these qualities are not always present in the jiva. Sometimes they are manifest, sometimes they are not. Tatraiva paripurnataya bhanti. However, these are present in full Purushottame, in the Supreme Lord. Ata pancha gunaye syuhu amshena girishadishu. Now the 5 qualities of Krishna, which will also present in Lord Shiva and others, when they are the Lord's expansions, will be listed. Okay. So in Lord Shiva, 5 more qualities are there. What are those 5 qualities? Which are there in Vishnu also and Krishna also. Sada Swarupa Sampraptaha Sarvagyo Nitya Nutanaha Sachidananda Sandrangaha Sarva Siddhi Nishevitaha. Sada Swarupa Sampraptaha. He is always situated in his eternal form. So Lord Shiva is always situated in his eternal form. His form is described in the Shastras. Sarvagya is omniscient. Nitya Nutanaha is forever young. Satchid Ananda Sandrangaha. He has a body made of condensed eternity, knowledge and bliss. Sarva Siddhi Nishevitaha. He possesses all the siddhis or mystic powers. So these qualities are there in Lord Shiva also, and the Vishnu Tattvas also, and in Krishna also. Okay. Then he says, Atochyante gunaha pancha ye lakshmi shadi vartinaha avichintya mahashakti koti brahmanda vigraha avataravali bijam hatari gatidayakaha atma ramagana akarshi ati ami krishne kila adbhutaha. He says, now will be listed the amazing qualities present in Krishna, but also present in Narayana and the Purushavasaras. Ye Lakshmi Shadi Vartinaha. It is present in the avatars also, in all the Vishnu Tattvas. What are those qualities? Avichintya Mahashaktihi. He has inconceivably great qualities, which even Lord Shiva does not have. And Koti Brahmanda Vigraha. He is the form which expands over tens of millions of universes. His ability to expand and pervade. All the Vishnu Tattvas have this capacity. Avataravali Bijam. He is the source of the numerous avataras. Especially the Purusha avatars, they are said to be the source of all the avataras. Hatari Gatidayakaha. He rewards even the enemies that he kills. Atma Rama Gana Akarshi. He attracts even the Atma Ramas. So these 5 qualities are not there even in Lord Shiva, but these 5 qualities are there in the Vishnu Tattvas. But these qualities, Krishna Kila Adbhutaha. These qualities become even more astonishing in Krishna. So these 5 qualities are there in all the Vishnu Tattvas, but they are there in Krishna to an extraordinary degree. For example, let us see the 4th quality of Hatari Gatidatvam. So when these Vishnu Tattvas kill a particular demon, then the demon gets a higher destination than what he deserves. Okay. So when all the other avatars, Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Narasimha, Vamana, Ramachandra, all of them, when they kill any demon, that demon gets a better destination, but never liberation. But when Krishna kills a demon, the demon at least gets Sayujya Mukti. Mostly he gets Sayujya Mukti. Liberation is guaranteed when Krishna kills. Of course, all the other avatars, they are capable of giving mukti to their devotees. And they are capable of giving a better destination to the demons whom they kill. But when it comes to killing the demons, they cannot give mukti to the demons whom they kill. That only Krishna can give, because the form of Krishna is so attractive that the demon who is killed by Krishna, he becomes completely absorbed in Krishna. So therefore, Hatari Gatidayakatvam. So all these Atma Ramagana Akarshi. So all the Vishnu Tattvas are very attractive to Atma Ramas, but the level of attraction that Krishna can produce, especially Krishna of Vrindavan. So that level of attraction is not exhibited by any of the other avatars. So even though these 5 qualities are there in all the Vishnu Tattvas, but these 5 qualities are also there to an extraordinary degree only in Krishna. And then talking about the 4 qualities which are there exclusively in Vrindavan Krishna. Sarvadbhuta Chamatkara Leela Kallola Varidihi Atulya Madhura Prema Mandita Priya Mandalaha Trijagan Manasakarshi Murali Kalakutaha Asamanordva Rupa Shri Vismapita Characharaha Leela Premna Priyadikyam Madhuryam Venu Rupayoho Iti Asadharanam Proktam Govindasya Chatushtayam. So first, Kallola Varidihi. He is a wave-filled ocean. Varidihi is an ocean. Kallola is waves. He is a wave-filled ocean of Sarva Adbhuta Chamatkara Leela, of the most astonishing display of pastimes. The kind of pastimes that Krishna displays, the sweetness, that kind of pastimes. Vismapanam swasya saubagarde param padam bhushana bhushanangam. Of course, that refers to the beauty of Krishna. But the pastimes of Krishna are astonishing even to the to Lord Narayana. And Priyamandalaha Mandita Atulya Madhura Prema. He is surrounded by loving associates decorated with incomparably sweet prema. The kind of affection and love that Krishna's devotees have towards Krishna is unparalleled. No, even the the prema bhakts of the other incarnations, they can't show that they don't have that intensity of prema that the perfected devotees of Krishna, especially Vrindavan Krishna, have towards Krishna. Okay, so this is prema madhuri. First is Leela Madhuri, the next is Bhakta Prema Madhuri, and the third is, he says, Kalakujitaha Murali Manasa Akarshi Trijagat. He plays sweet notes on his flute, which attracts all the minds in the three worlds. So flute is a instrument, and especially the kind of attractiveness, the ability to control. It mentioned that the Vedas and the Vedic scriptures come from the lips of Krishna, so they are very wonderful. But the flute is so special that it gets the nectar from the lips of Krishna, and it produces sound which is much more exalted than the Vedic words, like that. So this the sweet notes played by the flute of Krishna has the ability to attract the minds of the three worlds. And this flute is exclusive to Krishna, and no other incarnation has this flute. Vismapita characharaha rupashri asamanordva. He astonishes all moving and non-moving entities. Vismapita chara achara. Rupashri, with the beauty of his form, asamanordva, to which there is no equal or superior. The beauty of Krishna is unparalleled. So therefore, his ability to attract his devotees through these four different things. Therefore, the devotees of Krishna, especially Vrindavan Krishna, show an intensity of love and attachment to Krishna, which is not seen in the devotees of any other avatars. So he says, Govindasya asadharanam chatushtayam. His extraordinary four qualities are his Leela, special pastimes, Premna Priyadikyam, his devotees endowed with abundant prema, Madhuryam Venu Rupayoho, and the sweetness of his flute and the sweetness of his form. Okay, these are the four things. Okay. So he says that those who have not thoroughly researched in this matter say that Vishnu is the Lord, not Shiva, or that Shiva is the Lord and not Vishnu. That since I am a devotee of Vishnu, I will not give regard to Shiva or vice versa. So people who have not thoroughly researched in this matter, they will speak all this way. Such people deliberately involving themselves in such arguments also commit namaparad. If such offenders can become enlightened by a devotee with thorough knowledge of the matter, then they can realize in what way Shiva and Vishnu are non-different and in what way they are different. With this realization and by performing Nama Kirtan, the person can nullify his offense. Okay, like that. So, of course, there are other common misunderstandings of this offense. And then there are specific instructions given to the householders by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Harinam Chintamani. How should a householder in Varnashrama system act? And there is another different understanding to this whole second offense that will also be discussed. So all these things we will discuss next week. But before we wind up today's session, If there are any final discussion points, questions, comments anyone would like to share as add, you can please go ahead. There is already one question in the chat box. If other avatars don't give fully liberation, then how did Hiranyakashipu get liberation? Hiranyakashipu actually did not get liberation. After Narsingadev killed Hiranyakashipu, he reappeared as Ravana, and then after Lord Ramachandra killed Ravana, he reappeared as Shishupal, and then when Shishupal was killed by Krishna, then he attained his position back as Jaya and Vijay. So yeah, the Hiranyakashipu did not get liberation. Anything else anyone would like to share as? Okay, so if there is none, I think we will pause here and continue this discussion next Thursday. Thank you all very much for your patient listening and your enthusiastic participation. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Siksastakam ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Shri Harinam Chintamani ki jai, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Pad ki jai, Shri Madhurya Kadambini ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.